My name is Donald, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a systems engineer. Due to certain circumstances, I changed jobs when I was 26, but my profession hasn't changed. I'm still a systems engineer. I just left the US, that's all. After graduating from college, I landed a job at an aita company, my first choice. It felt like a promising start to my career. I was motivated, my colleagues and superiors were kind, and the workplace had great communication. But I quit the company before even 3 years had passed. The reason? A woman named Lucy Matthews. Lucy was assigned to the same department as me when I started as a newbie. She had a unique presence and was beautiful, standing out in a world where cuteness was the norm. As we worked together, we grew closer and eventually started dating. I was shocked and overjoyed when Lucy confessed her feelings to me. I'm a plain guy, a nerd who struggles with stylish conversation, while Lucy was the center of attention at work, almost like a Madonna figure. She seemed out of my league, and even now, it feels like a miracle that she chose me. Lucy was well aware of her beauty and knew how to present herself. Embarrassingly, I was so afraid of her losing interest in me that I ended up being at her beck and call, always on edge. She quickly grew tired of me. Her last words still sting. "You might be capable at work, but you're a failure as a man. Being with you, Donald, was just boring." I was crushed by the sudden breakup and those harsh words. It's not every day you get scolded so directly, especially by someone you love. It was tough, especially since Lucy, who had dumped me so cruelly, was still working right next to me. I couldn't take it anymore. Please don't laugh at me for running away. I was weak. So, I left the company I had dreamed of working for. Since then, I haven't been in touch with Lucy. On the day I resigned, she was on paid vacation. It's been 10 years since I quit. Now, I'm standing in front of the company building I once adored, and it feels like I'm reliving the emotions of my first year there. The truth is, I didn't just leave the company in a hurry. I also fled the US. In a small industry like ours, I thought it would be hard to face my former colleagues if I got another job, so I decided to go somewhere where no one knew me. Foreign companies are truly meritocratic, and I daringly left the US to test my skills. It turned out to be a great decision. Despite my struggles with social skills, I found a company that highly valued my expertise as a systems engineer. I immersed myself in cutting-edge technology, and before I knew it, a decade had flown by. I returned to this company because an old colleague reached out and asked me to come back. It was a rather forceful invitation, so I made a request. Initially, I wanted to be employed as a regular staff member. That was my condition. I'm confident this experience will be useful when I return to my original work. So, here I am, starting over as a new employee at 36. The department I was assigned to is the same as before, but the atmosphere has changed. The employees seem more reserved now. There used to be more freedom and a lively exchange of opinions. I wonder what's caused this shift. As I surveyed the floor from the entrance, I heard a familiar voice behind me say, "Coming back like this, you've got some thick skin." While surveying the floor from the entrance, I was spoken to from behind, a voice I couldn't forget. "It's not like I came back because I wanted to," I replied. Lucy, listening to my reply, snorted discontentedly. She had the same floral perfume scent as before. "Well, since you're an attorney, no matter who your former colleague is, no matter how old you are, you're a rookie here. You're at the very bottom. Don't forget that." Lucy, who said this arrogantly, had become an action manager. With Lucy in charge of this team, I became her subordinate. Lucy, confidently walking ahead with the clacking of her heels, was as confident as ever. What bothered me, however, was the attitude of my colleagues, who were her subordinates. They seemed to be holding back around her. I carefully surveyed my surroundings and followed behind Lucy. Lucy introduced me as a returning rookie. Despite running away from this company, I came back. She introduced me as if mocking me. I'm Donald. Nice to meet you." When I greeted them, sparse applause broke out. When I was shown to my desk, I was surprised to see the one next to it. On the desk next to mine, there were 3 monitors, and in front of them, a small figure of a horse was displayed. Next to it was an eye massage and a shoulder-pounding stick. I could feel the strong presence. "What? Is there something wrong with my desk?" The one peering at me from below as she said this was a short, skinny girl. The inside of her wolf-cut hair was bleached white. The eyeliner around her eyes flared like a cat's. "Nice to meet you. I'm Emma Smith. Call me Emma." She stretched out her small right hand, full of rings, and I shook it back. Her hand was as small as an elementary school student's. As soon as Emma took her seat, she put on white headphones. After that, she began to work at an astonishing speed. Thinking that she might only be assigned simple tasks, I stealthily glanced at Emma's screen. I let out a surprised voice involuntarily. What Emma was getting done at an incredible speed was not simple work. She was solving intricate puzzles and codes with incredible speed. No doubt the ace of this department is Emma. I'm certain of it. "What's up? Interested in me?" Emma, who I thought was only looking at her monitor, said this without changing her gaze. Caught in the act of sneaking glances, I felt a bit guilty. "You can look at me more openly if you want." She turned her face towards me and smiled as she told me this with an upward glance and a smile. I could only respond with a grunt and scratch my head. By all means, feel free to compliment me. Being told this so refreshingly felt, well, refreshing. The atmosphere in the office had changed, but everyone's skills hadn't diminished. That gave me a sense of relief. That said, it seemed that Boss Lucy might be responsible for this change in atmosphere. On my first day as a system engineer, the task given to me was stapling documents. The only time I touched a computer was to check company emails. Lucy intentionally kept me away from computers. In other words, she only assigned me to do miscellaneous tasks. "Newbies make the coffee in this office. Since you, Donald, are the most recent and lowest in rank, please take care of the chores. Oh, and also, please make a lunch reservation for us." Saying that, Lucy left a stack of cards from restaurants at my desk. Seeing this, Emma gave a wry smile. She always does this to new people. "If there's anything you don't understand, just ask me. Okay, I've been through it too." Being encouraged by Emma, I couldn't help but smile wryly too. Being encouraged by a girl almost 10 years younger made me feel like I'd regressed to my pitiful past. "Thanks, that helps," I said as I bowed my head in thanks. She looked at me as if she discovered a rare creature. "Do you what? Is there something wrong?" I quickly checked myself, wondering if I'd spilled coffee on my shirt or something. I found nothing wrong. "No, it's not that. It's rare to hear a grown man say he's grateful to a young girl. That is new for me." She quickly put her headphones back on and got back to work. I touched my cheek, worried that I might have appeared pathetic. A week had passed, and I still hadn't been given any proper work. Lucy began to pile up chores from other departments on my desk. It seemed like the tasks within our department weren't enough. "Good morning, Mr. McKenna." Rubbing her sleepy eyes, Emma arrived at work just in time. She dumped her backpack on her desk and headed straight to the kitchen to make coffee. At that moment, I spotted something under my desk. I picked it up and was taken aback. It was a flamboyantly pink and blue bikini top. I hurriedly looked around. Luckily, no one seemed to notice that Emma's backpack was left half open on her desk. I picked up what had fallen out, but I wasn't sure what to do next. I thought about sneaking it back into her bag, but that would be tricky if Emma came back while I was doing it. As I was trying to figure out my next move, Emma's voice, tinged with a sigh, reached my ears. Without thinking, I jumped up from my chair and looked up. Emma was standing there with a teasing gaze that made my heart flutter. I saw a side of her that was rarely shown, so feminine and gentle. This was on the floor, I stammered, handing her the item. Emma leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "Reality is 100 times cuter than imagination." Her breath was warm against my hair, and I slid off the chair, overwhelmed by the strong scent of her perfume. Emma's perfume was subtle when we sat next to each other, but up close, it became alluring. My heart raced as I realized I was being teased by someone so much younger. It made me feel less confident. "I'm going to a night pool with friends today. Thanks for picking this up for me," Emma said, extending her hand. Lost in thought, I first handed her the swimsuit and then took her hand to get up. "It's not safe for a young girl to go to a night pool dressed like that. Isn't it a bad idea?" I said, sounding like a worried father. Emma looked at me, confused, and then burst into laughter. "I've never heard that from my own parents," she said, still laughing. Embarrassed, I mumbled, "Give me a break. If you're worried, Miss McKenna, I won't go. But I expect a reward in return." She pushed the swimsuit into my pocket and laughed. I was captivated by Emma's mischievous smile. It was clear she was a charming little devil. After this day, Emma and I became much closer. It felt like she had me wrapped around her finger. When Emma showed up for dinner instead of going to the night pool, I was breathless. She had a different aura, her loosely tied hair, a black mini dress with Dr. Martens boots, and cherry blossom-colored lips made her look both melancholic and sexy. "I'm lucky to be at such a fancy restaurant," Emma said softly. She laughed helplessly, and I found myself chuckling too. "Do you have any food allergies or dislikes?" I asked. She replied, "No, I don't," though she seemed a bit overwhelmed by the setting. When I finished ordering, Emma looked at me with admiration. "You speak French? That's impressive," she said, clearly surprised. I told her about my experiences working abroad, and she asked a barrage of questions, making us pause our meal several times. I was happy she was so interested, so I shared things I had never told anyone before. Emma reacted with laughter and surprise at each new revelation. "Let me hear about you, Miss Smith," I said. She insisted, "Call me Emma. If you don't, I won't respond." I nervously called her Emma, and she responded with a smile and a tilt of her head that nearly knocked me off my feet. That night, I learned a lesson. I was no match for her charm. The next day, Lucy, whom I ran into in the hallway, teased me loudly, "Looks like you've got a thing for younger girls now. Wasn't it me you were infatuated with before?" Her comment made everyone around us whisper and glance in my direction. I was taken aback. "I thought you'd be married and retired by now. That's why I returned to this company. I didn't expect you to be still on the market." In my words, Lucy's face turned bright red. The whispers around us grew louder. Lucy had already started spreading stories of my past among my colleagues. I had once come across her animatedly sharing stories of how I used to be head over heels for her. While it's true that I was infatuated with Lucy, I'm not ashamed of it. However, her exaggerations and smug way of narrating irked me. Being able to pay her back a bit felt somewhat refreshing. "What's still on the market?" "That's rude. It's just that I haven't met a man who's worthy of me." "Stop making fun of me." Lucy raised her voice in protest. Apparently, she is in a close relationship at the moment. She rambled on about her partner, a high flyer in the industry, being more wonderful than any men in our company. Although no one had asked, it seemed like she didn't want people to think she was single. It's typical Lucy, who's always had a boyfriend without a break. There's no doubt she has someone now, but when it comes to marriage, men look at different aspects of a woman, whether living together would be enjoyable or tiresome. In other words, while Lucy is popular but not married, she's great as a girlfriend but not suitable for marriage. The current situation demonstrates that clearly. Well, that's the thing. Don't compare me with someone who can only handle young girls. Leaving behind such a dismissive remark, the visibly annoyed Lucy stormed off. I watched as she took out her anger on her subordinates while she left. Oh, Lucy's boyfriend? Yeah, I know him. He's from the development department of our rival company. He's really cheesy and, well, creepy. During lunch break, Emma and I were nibbling on some sweet bread at our adjacent desks when I asked about Lucy's boyfriend. Emma gave a rather disgusted look as she filled me in about the man. The fact that she herself had been hit on by him seemed to disgust her to her core, which I found amusing and couldn't help but chuckle. It's not funny. I think that guy is a schemer. He even tried to talk me into transferring and suggested I bring some information as a gift. The conversation quickly took a grim turn. What do you mean by that? I stopped nibbling on the pastry. Exactly what it sounds like. That man is trying every trick in the book to steal our development information. Emma crumpled up her bread bag and, with a dangerous smile, delivered her words. Given the circumstances, it appeared that Lucy was his current target. From what I gathered today, Lucy seemed quite smitten with him. I could only hope that my bad feeling wouldn't turn out to be true. I know who you really are, Donald said, nonchalantly revealing my secret as she looked at her computer monitor. What, you're joking, right? The words slipped out of my mouth, to which Emma gave a wicked grin. On her computer screen was my confidential transfer order, which hadn't been disclosed publicly. She seemed to have effortlessly bypassed the HR computer security and discovered the truth. She confessed she had been suspicious from the start and seemed to have noticed me reading the program source code displayed on her computer monitor. Nobody in this department can read code like you can. I knew right away you were not just an ordinary Joe. I was left scratching my head, my cover blown. Now, shall we swiftly drain the puss and make this workplace more pleasant? Emma said in a mockingly polite tone, her face plastered with the mischievous grin she often wore. Roger that, I conceded, throwing up my hands in surrender. I decided to dive straight into the harsh treatment. I was able to catch the tail of the information leak quite easily. Lucy had always been careless. There were traces of her habits, even in the program source code. She had copied the program of a recently developed system, and there were traces of her attempting to take it outside the company. More precisely, traces of her attempt to erase evidence of her actions were clearly left behind. Others might have overlooked it, but not me. Instead of making a public spectacle, we agreed to handle this matter discreetly and consult with HR. There was also a slight degree of past compassion involved. There's no way that was Lucy's reaction when called by the boss and informed about the leak. Furthermore, she reputedly suggested that Emma might be the culprit if there was a leak. Her basis was that Emma disrespects me, her section manager, a clear personal grudge. This conversation took place the day I met with my boss. Unusually, Luke, who usually leaves work on time, was staying late. Both Emma and I often work overtime. Emma prefers to wrap up her work at a good stopping point before heading home, while I typically get caught up in miscellaneous tasks. I occasionally glanced over at Lucy, who was unusually glued to her computer. I suspected she was staying behind with some ulterior motive. Are you guys not leaving yet? You're wasting electricity. Lucy yells at us from afar. Her voice carries a sharp edge of impatience. I can feel Lucy's anxiety as if I could touch it. She must be trying to cover up all her wrongdoings. But all the access codes have been rewritten by my coworker Emma. Someone else might have been able to crack it, but breaking through a system that Emma has constructed is impossible for Lucy. Even from RC, we can hear Lucy's screaming. The next moment, a loud alarm blares from Lucy's computer, signaling an emergency. She's fallen into the trap I've set. Upon hearing the noise, the security guard rushes into the floor. Employees who had been working overtime in other departments also gather around. I didn't do anything. It just started going off by itself. It's a bug. A bug. Who the hell programmed this? Lucy stands up, pointing at her computer. The alarm continues. Then Emma steps smoothly to the computer and silences the alarm in an instant. As soon as the noise stops, Lucy's face relaxes. In the next moment, she points at Emma and starts yelling. "This is your doing. You're the one who leaked the information too, aren't you? You set up this trap because you didn't want me investigating you." Lucy doesn't get to finish her sentence because the boss shows himself among the gawkers. "Lucy, this isn't a good look. You are the main culprit behind the data leak, aren't you? Falling into this trap is proof of that." The boss explains to Lucy that all the evidence was gathered in my internal investigation. Lucy chokes and looks at me. "You're lying. Donald doesn't have these skills. What could a good-for-nothing errand boy do?" Lucy glares at me, then rounds on the boss. The boss sighs in exasperation. "Donald, I'm glad we followed your plan. I never expected to catch such a big fish." Lucy looks at me dumbfounded as the boss speaks to me amicably. She clearly hadn't expected that I was working with the boss. Donald is a talent we invited to our company as a supervisor. He's my right-hand man whom I brought in from England. At the boss's words, Lucy is stunned into silence. "We'll notify you of your punishment later. For now, go home and refrain from work until we get in touch." Upon hearing the boss's words, Lucy collapses on the spot. Later, Lucy gets transferred to a small branch office in Nebraska. I end up taking over Lucy's position. Emma complained about her desk being moved away from mine, but there's nothing that could be done about that. Although the ending left a sour taste in our mouths, the atmosphere at work changed completely. I think it's getting closer to how it was when I was around. A workplace with a good flow of communication where lively and candid exchanges of opinion are possible and performance quickly starts to improve. Everyone on the floor acknowledges that Emma is contributing to this change. I think we can continue to work together like this forever. That's what I was leisurely thinking, but Emma isn't someone who would settle here. A year later, she receives an offer to study abroad in Japan, bringing home the latest technology and information. That is her mission. The company is covering all the expenses for her study abroad. She had absolutely no reason to refuse. When this conversation came up, I was shaken. We never openly acknowledged it, but we consider each other as lovers. I lack the capacity to cheerfully wave goodbye as my irreplaceable partner sets off across the sea. How can I make her stay? That's all I could think about. Even when I'm with Emma, all I can do is contemplate how to make her stay in the U.S., making it impossible to enjoy our time. Should I propose marriage as a last resort? I'm disgusted by myself for even considering such a low method. Emma laughs as if she sees right through my thoughts. "Hey, are you going to be lonely if I go to study abroad?" Emma, who has always been one step ahead of me, stops and turns to look at me. "Of course I'll be lonely. That's a given." Emma chuckles happily on hearing my reply. I thought this was the only moment to mention marriage. Just when I gathered my courage and tried to voice it, Emma's slender finger touched my lips. "No, not now. When I come back from Japan, then you can move on me. I'll say yes right away." Emma looks at me with unusually serious eyes. After she finishes her sentence, she gives me a soft smile. I raise both my hands in a surrendering pose. I've never won against Emily anyway. I get it. I promise. And so, I sent her off. 4 years later, I'm waiting for Emma at JFK Airport. It's not like me, but I've prepared a bouquet of flowers. I've had my opening line decided since 4 years ago. "Welcome back. Will you marry me?" My heart feels like it's about to leap out of my mouth. The electronic display announces the arrival of Emma's flight. It's only a little longer. In a little while, a new chapter of our story will begin. Of course, the ending is planned to be a happy one. How did you find today's story? Your subscription and likes will be an encouragement for my content creation. I look forward to your comments. See you in the next video.